Okay, so that now that we know what is an array and the types of how we can with the different types of array and the syntax for array declaration. Now, how do we are going to look at how we can put our data inside an array. There are two ways for us to initialize arrays. The first way is during declaration. Okay, we call it compile time initialization. In this way, during declaration, when we declare, for example, char ch size 5, and then we in the same line we set all the characters that we want to store inside the array. The second type is runtime initialization. In this method, we just declare an array, but we do not put the data in first. Okay, and later in the program, when we need to, so we put all the data inside the array whenever we need it. Okay. All right, now let's look at some examples of compile time initialization. Okay, in the first example here, I created char or character type of array, and the size here is 5. So there will be we can store up to 5 different characters inside this array. Okay, let's say I want to store A, E, I, O, U. So the syntax is we put a open curly bracket here, and we put the data that I want to store separated by a comma. Okay, and then we close that set of data, and of course do not forget to put your semicolon here. All right, now look at the second one. Okay, it's the same data. I want to store the same data, A, I, O, U, and so I declare a character type of array. I name it vowel, and the size is 5. But look at the way I put the data. I just put this directly the string that I want to store inside this array. Okay, this way is also allowed for character type of array. All right, so the next one is an integer type of array, and the size is 5. The name of the array is A, and these are the integers that I want to store inside that array. Again, all the data are contained in brackets, curly brackets, and separated by commas. Now let's look at the last one. Okay, in this type of in this example, the type of the name of the array is mark, and the type is float. So all the data inside this array must be or will be converted into float. For example, let's say for example I want to store these 3 data. Now look at here. Here, if you look at the 3 previous example, there's I specified the size, but here I did not put anything inside these square brackets. So we can also, this is another way of declaring and initializing an array, where I don't put any size here, but I supply the array with the data that I want to put. So when this happens, the compiler will automatically create an array with type float here, and the size will be set to 3 because we initialize it with 3 elements. Okay. Now let's have a closer look at how an array works. Okay, let's say we take the first example previously. Okay, let's say I have this array declaration here. Okay, so what this array is again is character type array, and the name is ch, and the size is 5. And these are the data that I want to store inside it. So what happened in our computer memory when we run this is that in the computer memories, there it will create a space where we can store this data. Okay, let's imagine this is the space. It has 5 spaces and it store A, E, I, O, U, and we can imagine it index in this way. Actually, this is not the way. This is not the real address, but we can imagine it like this. We call an array. We call it by its index. So ch0, ch1, ch2, ch3, and ch4. These are the unique index for each element of the array. Okay, if it has 5 elements, so there will be 5 unique index or address for that array. If it has 100 elements, so there will be 100 indexing or address for that array. Okay, if you want to imagine, we can imagine the name of the array ch, in this case ch, as a building's name. Okay, and the index of array is we can imagine it like an apartment number, and the content of an array as the people living in the apartment. Okay, so if you want to imagine how the indexing, how the array it looks like, we can imagine it as an apartment building. Okay, next we are going to look at runtime initialization. We're going to look closely at runtime initialization. Okay, for runtime initialization, we must define the size, the value can be initialized during program or running program when the program runs. All right. Different from the previous example, in for runtime initialization, we only need to during declaration, we only need to declare the name, the type, and if you want to, the size of the array. Okay, we do not, if you look at here, we did not put any data yet inside this array. We only name it num and put the size. Okay, and shown here is an example of how we can populate or initialize an array during runtime initialization with the help of for loop. Okay, we are going to look at this example in detail later. Okay, now when this program run, for the array will be populated with 0, 1, and 2. Okay. Okay, next is how we can access elements in array. As I said before, array in computer memory, an array is we can imagine it as being arranged in, let's say, a stack like this, and each element has a unique index number. Okay, so we can call any element, for example, in this array by referring to its index number. Okay, and also an array index numbering starts with 0 and it ends with array size -1. So let's say we have an array of, in this example, size 10. Okay, so the maximum number in the index is for example A9. Okay, shown here. So let's say our array has 20 element. Array size, let's say array size is 20. So therefore, the maximum, the indexing will be from A0 until A19. Okay. Let's look at this example. So the first element is A0 here, and the data inside is 23. And the last element is A9, and the data here is 0. Okay. Now, what is the data at A5? A5 is 5.